The arrival of DeepSeek, a Chinese open-source large language model, may have completely changed the AI industry forever. As a result of its release, Nvidia saw $600 billion wipe off its market value in one day, in the largest one-day drop in US stock market history. And investors are now speculating that this could be part of a wider market correction for both Nvidia stock and the stocks of the other tech giants as well. But why did this happen? What is DeepSeek and why is its arrival so pivotal? And what can this tell us about Nvidia and their stock price more generally? Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name's George and I'm a finance professional working in the UK. And as an investor in the S&P 500, I'm massively exposed to Nvidia's share price, as well as the other US tech stocks, which collectively now make up around a third of the S&P 500 as a whole. Now, as we all know, these tech stocks have performed amazingly well over the last few years, as the hype around AI, as well as the spending on its infrastructure and development, has absolutely skyrocketed over the last few years. Now, for investors, this has been great so far, but there's always been a nagging feeling in the back of our heads that thinks this could all be a bubble, and it's only a matter of time before something comes along to burst it. So the question is the arrival of DeepSeek this so-called black swan event that everyone's been worried about? And what could it mean for the AI industry and Nvidia's share price in particular going forward? DeepSeek is an artificial intelligence company founded in late 2023 by a hedge fund manager in Hangzhou, China. Now, they were basically unknown until in late January 2025, they released their DeepSeek R1 product, which is a large language model much like ChatGPT. Now, DeepSeek has caused such a stir for three main reasons. Firstly, the performance of DeepSeek as a large language model is comparable to, if not better than, some of the most advanced models that are currently available. For example, ChatGPT 4's O1 and O1 Pro, which, by the way, cost $200 a month to access. Secondly, DeepSeek claim that they trained their R1 model using only $6 million of electricity and computing resources, which, if it's true, is really quite amazing. Think it costs companies like OpenAI and Google literally hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars to train their most advanced models. And DeepSeek is saying that they've trained an as good model for just $6 million. And they've managed to do this by using new and innovative techniques on older hardware, as in they haven't had to use data centers full of Nvidia's really expensive cutting edge technology to train this model. And thirdly, it's fully free to use and open source, so its code and underlying architecture is completely accessible to the public, which allows developers and researchers to go in, understand how it works, and potentially build on their techniques. Now, to understand why this has had such a big impact on Nvidia's share price in particular, we really need to understand what makes Nvidia so special in the first place. Now, Nvidia is not a new company. It was founded back in 1993 by its current CEO and two others, and it began primarily as a developer of graphics cards and GPUs for the video game industry. And over the years, it became very successful at what it did, entering into the S&P 500 in 2001 and becoming a market leader in graphics accelerators and GPUs. And to simplify massively, Nvidia basically found themselves the market leader in these high-end graphics cards, which happen to be absolutely amazing at doing the complex computations that you need to do to, first of all, mine Bitcoin, and secondly, to train massive large language models like ChatGPT. Most importantly, they had well over a decade head start over any of the closest competition. Now, it's not only these cutting edge chips and GPUs that Nvidia produce that makes them so special, it's also all of the supporting architecture and infrastructure that goes with being able to use these chips for productive uses. And therefore their customers are completely dependent on Nvidia and their whole product range. And it makes it incredibly difficult for competitors to gain a foothold in the industry. Now, this, paired with the literally hundreds of billions of dollars that the largest US tech companies have poured into training large language models over the last few years, has absolutely skyrocketed Nvidia's earnings and profit margins. And this, paired with all the hype surrounding AI, has pushed their share price up around 2,400% over the last 5 years, or 24 times. Now, this is all super impressive, but the arrival of DeepSeek may have thrown a massive question mark over the future earning capabilities of Nvidia, and therefore the sustainability of their share price. So, Nvidia's success over the last 5 years has been primarily driven by the hundreds of billions of dollars that the big tech companies have spent on training large language models like ChatGPT, and also Nvidia's market dominance over the technology required to train these large language models. But this is all based on the assumption that in order to train the best AI models, you need as much computing power as humanly possible. That is to say, you need as much Nvidia gear as you can possibly get. But there are hints that cramming data centers full of Nvidia's GPUs just isn't really delivering the results that people are expecting. You know, there are reports from both OpenAI and Google to say that they're struggling to make big leaps forward with their large language models. And then comes along DeepSeek, which shows that they can make a comparable model for as little as $6 million on non-cutting edge equipment. So this then begs the question, actually how important are Nvidia's best chips and GPUs to training the best large language models? Or is it the case that these big tech companies are just trying to outspend each other, when in actual fact what they should be doing is trying new techniques, or maybe even moving away from large language models entirely? And maybe it turns out that the best way forward is not to cram data centers full of billions of dollars worth of Nvidia GPUs. After all, we're really in an arms race where the big tech companies are all desperately trying to not get left behind, so they feel like they've got no choice but to spend billions of dollars on these GPUs. But if they realise that they actually don't need to do this, then as soon as one stops and tries something different, then the others will follow suit, which, if it happens, could really spell disaster for Nvidia. Now, you may have found this convincing, but before you rush off to sell your entire Nvidia holding, you might want to consider the following argument. So, because of US restrictions, DeepSeek, being a Chinese company, has never had access to Nvidia's best equipment. So their new methodologies on training these large language models have been yet to be employed on Nvidia's best tech. And because it's only just been released, we can't rule out the fact that it could be true that their new methodologies and techniques actually work a lot better on Nvidia's best gear, meaning that Nvidia's best gear will still be highly in demand. You know, it might come out that DeepSeek has struck gold on some massive efficiency gains, but this can only be properly used on Nvidia's best tech, meaning that having data centers full of Nvidia's GPUs is still the best way to go. Now, if this turns out to be true, then the recent tweet by Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella becomes quite relevant. In this tweet, he's referencing Jevons paradox, which is a paradox in economics which says that when we get efficiency gains, people expect resource use to drop because less is required to make the same amount. However, what actually happens is the use of the resource goes up because it's now cheaper to use that resource, because you can get more output per unit of resource that you use. So in the case of DeepSeek and Nvidia, DeepSeek's new methodologies are the gains in efficiencies, and the resource is Nvidia's best chips. So essentially what he's saying is demand for Nvidia's best technology will actually go up because of the efficiency gains that DeepSeek has uncovered. Now, obviously, the CEO of Microsoft has a vested interest in saying things which are going to settle the markets down. But he does have a good point. You know, just because DeepSeek didn't use data centers full of Nvidia's top tech doesn't mean that the advantage of doing so is gone. And in actual fact, it could potentially mean that the advantage of having these massive data centers is now a lot greater because of the efficiency gains that they found. So the arrival of DeepSeek has let off an absolute bombshell in the AI industry, and the full consequences are definitely yet to be seen. And if you've made it this far, you might find value in my recent video where we discuss, is the S&P 500 overvalued in 2025? And things that you can do to potentially capitalize on the overvalued market. And if you have your own thoughts and opinions on what DeepSeek means for the AI industry, leave me a comment below. I'll be interested to hear your thoughts. And if you've made it this far, you're probably a lot like me, and you want to learn more about investing and personal finance. So please consider giving the channel a subscribe, because we've got lots more videos on the topics and many more in the works to come. Thanks for watching.